Now, we know that our triangle system is a 5-triangle system. 5 triangles, one of them is king, the front triangle, but the other 4 are very, very important. Statistically, the one that scores the least in international competition is the reverse triangle, Gyaku Sankaku. It's tempting to say, well, it doesn't score that often, so I'll just ignore it. It's actually a very valuable addition to your arsenal, and it smooths out the entire list of triangles you work with. Yes, you're going to score less with this than the other 4. I think statistically that's pretty clear. But there have been some very remarkable victories scored with this move in the past, and it can work for you too. First, let's just look at what the move is. Okay, what does it mean to say a reverse triangle? Let's start off. We're going to have our training partner in a supine position. From here, the idea that it's a reverse triangle is the idea that I will step over. I can do this in top or bottom position. I'll demonstrate it from a top position. Over my training partner's neck and create a 1-in, 1-out situation. Remember, the 1-in, 1-out is true for all the triangles regardless of type. Doesn't matter. Okay. One of his arms is clearly outside my legs, and one of his arms is clearly inside my legs. Okay. So we've created 1-in, 1-out. Now, I bring my leg across his shoulder line. So there's the strangle leg set. Okay. I need to eliminate his shoulder. So when we go in and lock, everything comes up above the shoulder line with my strangle leg. From this position, any back heel on my part creates a very, very strong strangulation. You will be absolutely shocked at how tight the reverse triangle is when it's properly applied. It's my belief that when it's well applied, it's actually the tightest of all the triangles. When it's poorly applied, it's the worst and least effective of all the triangles. So it does demand some precision on your part. Okay, we're going to be spending a lot of time as to what that means. You'll remember when we did the front triangle, we saw that the proper place for strangulation is our knee is below the ear. Exactly the same is true of this triangle. The mechanics involve placing my knee below Placido's ear and my shin across the line of his shoulders, above the line of his shoulders, here, perpendicular to his spine. And as a result, when we go to lock the figure of 4, his shoulder is eliminated from the triangle. And then from here, when we squeeze, it comes on immediately. Let's look at the same move from a bottom position. From a situation where I have, let's come around this way a little bit, the beginnings of a reverse triangle, you'll see once again we have a 1-in, 1-out situation. One arm is outside my legs and one is inside. Okay. Again, what's required is that my knee must be lower than his ear. If my knee is above his ear, you'll never strangle anybody. In fact, it's almost a worthless move at this point. Okay. What I need is to have my knee below his ear on the carotid artery. Now, when we lock, my shin goes along the line, or above the line, sorry, of my training partner's shoulders. And from here, when we lock the figure of 4, Placido will tell you it is an absolutely shockingly strong stranglehold, such as the precision of the placement on the carotid artery. Arguably, it's the tightest of all the triangles when it's done well. I will say about Gyaku Sankaku in general, done well, it's the tightest of the lot. Done poorly, it's the most worthless of the lot. So a lot of it comes down to your performance. There's a lot of potential here. The question is, can you exploit that potential? So once again, look how important it is for me to place the hollow of my knee on my training partner's carotid artery. If I don't do that, and my knee is above, I see this all the time, if my knee is above my opponent's ear, and here it obviously is, no amount of strangulation is going to do anything. He's just going to push with his 2 hands like a bench press, and it's just absolutely worthless. Okay? And you see a lot of frustration with this. Oh, that move doesn't work. Well, it works just fine, but you've got to do your part. Okay? So what we're always looking to do is to get our knee, the hollow of our knee, below his ear. Okay? How do I eliminate his shoulder? Let's move around the corner. From here you can clearly see his shoulder is involved in the triangle. I can't lock it worth a damn, okay? But if I bring everything up here, now when I lock, you can clearly see the back of his shoulder behind our triangle. And as a result, there's nothing here but neck and arm. And as a result, we get an insanely tight strangulation. Those are the essential elements of the mechanics of this very, very unusual and very, very useful part of your triangle system. Now, we looked at the mechanics of the reverse triangle, and done well, it's got some pretty damn impressive mechanics. It's one of the tightest strangles. Done well, it's absolutely one of the tightest strangles you'll ever feel. Done poorly, it feels worthless. So you've got to find that right sweet spot to really get into the carotid arteries and get to an effective stranglehold. Now, it's time we looked at getting into the strangle itself in a live combative situation. No one's going to let you get into that situation. How are you going to get there on a resisting opponent? Let's look first at an open guard scenario, which feeds well into the reverse triangle, Gyaku Sankaku. Okay, guys, here in my open guard, and we have put a foot here across our training partner's stomach. Fairly standard, okay? From a situation like this, we have a hold of both of our training partner's triceps, and we have a foot inside position, just like so. Not a difficult position to get into, okay? From here, I'm just going to create space using my left leg by extending the left leg just like so. And then I'm going to pommel my left foot around my training partner so it goes to the other side of his head, and as a result, we can fit our leg into a good attacking position. Now watch my right foot. My right foot enables me to extend my right leg. So I get underneath my training partner. Now from here, my hand goes through underneath my training partner's rib cage, and we start an action of turning around the corner like so. Just turn and face this way. Now, do you remember when I said the single most important prerequisite of this move is that my knee be underneath his ear? You can see I've got exactly that right now. Now, I bring everything down to the shoulder joint, and we lock the figure of 4. When Placido tries to bench press his way out of here, I have my hand here as a reverse tight waist. So as he tries to get away from me, it's impossible. And the second I go to apply pressure, that strangle is ungodly tight, okay? Done well, a reverse triangle literally feels like you're getting beheaded. It's difficult to convey how forceful the strangle is until you actually feel it when it's done well. Few people believe in it because not many people do it well. And as a result, they say, I felt that, it felt like nothing. Done properly, it's a scary, scary strangulation. Let's have a look at the move again. So, we start off inside position, just like so with my hands. From here, I place a foot on my training partner's hip, and we're ready to go. I start that extension, my hips moving out, and as a result, I can pommel my left foot around the corner and kick over my training partner's neck, just like this. Now, I start that action of turning and going through and locking right here. I bring my quadricep all the way down here to the tricep so that I eliminate my training partner's shoulder. You can all clearly see, good, pull your arm out. You can all clearly see Placido's shoulder in this position. I hug underneath, just like so, and I go through and I lock the figure of 4. When Placido goes to pull out and away from me, it's so difficult. And from here, the stranglehold is immensely tight. Let's show it from a different angle. From a situation where we start off an open guard. From here, we're in the perfect situation now to start that movement out and away. My second leg comes inside, and we're here ready to attack. As I create extension away from my opponent, I pommel my foot through and around, and I place my knee just below his ear. Okay. Now, as I come out to the side, I start that action of turning underneath my training partner. As always, my legs want to point forwards in the same direction my opponent is pointing. So when he goes to yank out and away from me, it's relatively simple for us to go around the corner and lock the figure of 4. From here, I put on a reverse tight waist. So when he goes to pull out and away, it's a very difficult thing. And then from here, when we apply the stranglehold, it's ungodly tight. This is a highly effective way to enter into the reverse triangle from an open guard scenario. Let's look now at applying the the reverse triangle, Gyaku Sankaku, from top position, in particular from the side. There's a prerequisite to doing this. We have to put our opponent in a side crucifix with a scissor action of our legs. So if we have an opponent down and bottom side control, we're going to start off in a fairly standard kind of side control situation. We're going to sit through, we're going to pull our training partner's elbow up and put them in a situation where we've hit a partial sit through, just like so. Now, from here, as my opponent goes to retract his arms and keeps his arms in, we're going to hip forward and we're going to push our training partner's wrist down and forward. So I can step over my training partner's arm, and then from here, we can go into a scissor action. Now, you'll notice I said a scissor action. Most people here pinch their knees together. When you pinch your knees together, you really don't control your opponent's arm at all. Human beings have strong legs in many ways, but pinching our legs together, our legs aren't strong at all that way. Here my opponent can limp his arm out and easily escape. Okay? What I want to do is not pinch my knees. I want to scissor my legs. When I do this, my opponent's shoulder is taken up into a vulnerable position and the head starts to rise. If I just pinch my knees, he can put his head easily on the floor away from me. But when I bring my knee into this scissor action, it brings his head up, and that's what we're looking for. As he goes to put his head back down now, it's not going to be easy. You've got an effective wedge underneath him. Now I take my hand and I pass it with a bent wrist over his head. I come forward and up and I lift so that I can pass my leg over my training partner's head and put my leg as a wedge underneath him. I post my hand on the floor and I start an action of driving my legs through and locking up. Okay? As I go to lock, I take my hands out so I have better base of support. We're just going to move around in this direction a little bit. Now, one of my favorite tricks to employ in this situation is to reach and seize my training partner's leg and feed it to my right arm. So we lock in and now we have a secure base of support. When he tries to bridge, he can't because I'm holding his leg. If my opponent's leg is on the floor, he can bridge and disrupt my triangles. Okay? So I want to reach across, lift, and lock the leg inwards. Now when he goes to move, he goes to shrimp, turn, it's all screwed up by the fact that I'm controlling the leg. Now all I do is I look towards the legs. And as I do that, watch my two legs come up and we apply an enormously tight stranglehold from top position. Once again, from a situation where my opponent's in a strong defensive stance, we come through and we control the pin position. From here, we start an action of controlling his arm and we go through, step over and side scissor. From that side scissor crucifix, it's so hard for him to recover his arm. I bring my body forward, I cup the head, and we go through and start locking behind our training partner. From here, I go through and I catch my training partner's leg and lock in the legs. From here, we lock the figure of four, I turn down towards the legs, and we strangle very, very securely in this position. You will be greatly impressed by the strangulation potential of this triangle. I'll say it again. Gyaku Sankaku, done correctly, is the tightest of all the triangles. Done poorly, it's the weakest of all the triangles. It's up to you to find the right angles. The key elements, as we saw before, are my knee placement. From any situation where I start off in my side pin, arms in tight, from here, we start off, we lift, we bring ourselves into a good pin situation like so. We're going to start crowding our training partner's chest until we can go over and get to that side scissor. Again, we scissor the legs, we don't pinch them. Okay? One knee goes forward and one knee goes back, so the shoulder is controlled. Now from here, we go in and we get our initial pin. Now I go through, lift, set my leg over the top, and watch that crucial detail. My knee is below his ear. That's the detail you're looking for. That places the hollow of my knee directly on his carotid artery. If you can place the hollow of your knee directly on your opponent's carotid artery, you are going to strangle a lot of people. If you don't, you're not going to strangle anybody. Okay? So we drive forward, and that creates space to place my shin underneath his shoulder line. Now I go hunting for his foot. I reach, catch, and draw it inwards. so that when I go forward and we lock the figure of the 4, you'll see that Placido's shoulder has been eliminated from my triangle, as we should always be doing. As a result, when we lock the figure of 4, he goes to pull away from me, goes to twist out, etc., etc. When I apply the stranglehold, you will see, we'll just apply it one time, Placido, strong resistance. When I go to apply the stranglehold, you will see it's an immensely tight strangulation, which feels rather like your head is being cut off. It's considerably tighter than most of the other triangles. You have to have faith in this. If you set your legs correctly, it's a shockingly tight strangulation. Let's have a look at the whole movement again from a different perspective. Okay, come this way. We're here across our training partner's side. Okay, from that side pin position, we go through on our training partner, we start crowding the head, we push, and we go into the side crucifix. Okay, from side crucifix, we control our training partner's head, we step over, and we place our knee exactly where it ought to be. As I move my body weight forward, we prop on our hands so we're stable. Okay, I don't want my hands close to my body. If he bridge and roll towards me, he could take me over. Okay, we don't want that. So we make sure we're nice and stable. I bring my head down to look towards his feet, and we lock the figure of 4. We catch, lock, and now we have the leg well trapped. From this position, we take everything forward, and we apply a strangle so tight, it'll make your eyes water. Okay? I'm sorry, Placido. This is a strangle which I'm quite sure you'll be very impressed by if you can employ it in the manner we just saw. Now, one of the great axioms of becoming a master of the triangle strangle is this. Once you set the triangle, top and bottom position become irrelevant. That's very important. I'll say it again. Once you set the triangle, top and bottom position become irrelevant. This is true for all of the triangles, and for this one in particular. You have to have faith in this. If you lose top position prior to setting the triangle, definitely bad things can happen. But once you get it, have some faith in yourself. You're going to strangle them regardless of whether you're top or bottom position. Let's have a look at the previous move, but where we get reversed by our opponent. Okay, one problem with the Gyaku Senkaku that we just looked at is that our bodies line up. If our bodies line up, you can be rolled over quite easily. The hardest person to roll over is someone who is perpendicular to your body. The easiest person to roll over is someone who's lined up with your body. Okay? So when I employ this form of triangle, there is an advantage. You are lined up with them. There is a chance you could be rolled over. Don't worry. If you've got that triangle set, it's going to be equally effective regardless of whether it's top or bottom position. You've got to have faith in this. So, as in the previous move, we control our training partner's elbow and we step forward and lock it up. Okay? As in the previous move, we go through and we lock up initially the 1 in 1 out situation. We've made sure that we set our knee right on his carotid artery. We come forward and we lock the figure of 4. But when I'm hunting for my training partner's foot, I'm starting to line up with him. If he turns up into me, I'm going to end up in the bottom position. When that occurs, I take my hand and I punch it through and I form a tight waist grip. Now, let's face the camera. Do you remember what I told you about the knee and the ear? My strangled knee should be below his ear. You can clearly see it is currently above Placido's ear. That's bad for the purpose of strangulation. So I'm going to go through underneath and hold his shoulders so that I have a shoulder and a waist. 1, 2. I'm going to have the confidence to unlock my triangle. If he tries to posture up, my arm position makes it impossible. Then I shift my hips and watch my left knee. It goes below his ear. This subtle shift from above the ear to below is the key to the strangle. I bring my leg around the tricep so we eliminate the shoulder and we lock the figure of 4. When we go to apply the stranglehold now, we have an insanely tight stranglehold from the bottom position. Your opponent won't get out and he'll be in a strangle absolutely as tight from bottom position as it was from top position. Let's have a look at that one more time. We're here across our training partner's side. We pin our training partner's arm down and we go across the body and lock up. When I lock the triangle and I go hunting for the foot, he turns and rolls me over. I take my hand and I punch through and take the tight waist. I go under his arm and lock in like so. Now let's move around to face the camera. Now you can clearly see my knee is well above his ear. So this will be an ineffective stranglehold. Okay? So I have to have the confidence to put my foot on the floor and shift my hips. Now you can clearly see my knee is below his ear. My foot is pointing up to the ceiling, and as a result, when I bring him forward and lock the figure of 4, the stranglehold is insanely tight. In this fashion, you can effortlessly go between top and bottom position and have no concern. The strangle will be equally effective. Okay, now we're looking at an overall system of triangles. This is not just a ragtag collection of moves. Here's a triangle, here's a triangle. This is a step-by-step procedure. We've seen the 4 steps of our triangle system. First, get a working grip upon your opponent that will stabilize him long enough for you to be able to move proactively into your triangle sequence. Second step is to create a 1-in, 1-out situation using that initial grip. I want to create a situation where one of my opponent's arms is trapped inside my legs and one of his arms is kept outside of my legs. This will enable us to establish what we call a trap triangle. Okay, it won't be a full locked-in stranglehold, but it will be a control around his head and one arm. Then the third critical step is the transition from the trap triangle to the figure 4 triangle. It's the figure 4 that's actually going to strangle this guy. Once we get to this third step, if you strangle your opponent, the match is over. And so the sequence stops at step number 3. Congratulations, the fight's over. There's going to be times, however, that you apply the strangle and it's not successful. Then you got to go to step number 4, which is to switch from the strangle to a joint lock. In most cases with Kimura, it's a lock to the arm in some way, shape, or form. Let's have a look at how this might occur in the case of Gyaku Senkaku, the reverse triangle. Let's take it from bottom side control. Okay, I'm pinned bottom side control. A very common kind of situation that'll work in these situations is one where my opponent goes to control my legs from the inside. Okay, this is a very easy place for us to start going into reverse triangles. From here, I'm going to bring my knees up to my chest and I'm going to take a reverse crossface in place like so. Now from here, I'm going to shift around the corner and begin to lock up the reverse triangle. I'm going to push with both of my legs so that his head moves away from me. Now, you can see that my knee is locked too high and the strangle is ineffective as a result. My knee is above his ear, it should be below the ear. One thing I could do in these situations is double thumb post my training partner's arm. He makes a strong resistant arm. We're going to double thumb post it and pass it across to the other side. If I wanted to strangle my opponent, I would go under the arm to the shoulder, tight waist, and adjust for the strangle. However, there's other options here too. A very good one is this. Your opponent knows this is the strangle knee. So what they're going to do is take their hand, put it on my knee, and push it off. Every time they do that, we're going to go through and score our training partner's wrist. We're going to go over the top and lock the American lock. I'm going to connect his elbow to my right armpit. When he tries to pull away from me, it's physically impossible. And from here, the American lock is insanely tight. Why? Because he can't move his head to defend himself. Most of the pressure relief in an American lock comes from his head moving. Okay, if the head can move, the American is not particularly tight. But here, with the Gyaku Senkaku in place, the head can't move. So even though the strangle is ineffective, when he goes to twist his arm out, it's physically impossible. And from here, it's very, very strong. Don't make the mistake of having the elbow out away from your chest. Here, there's no strength in the strangle. I must connect his left elbow to my right armpit. The further his elbow from my armpit, the more play there is in the arm and the less effective my move. So my whole thing is to first drag the elbow across my chest and connect the elbow to my armpit. And then from here, we get ungodly pressure. The only way my opponent can resist me is to thrust his arm straight forward out here. And the more he does so, the easier it becomes for us to adjust back into the original strangulation. And we play our opponent off between the threat of the American lock and the threat of the strangulation from the reverse triangle. This is another way in which we can use our fundamental principle that when the strangulation fails, go to step number 4, arm lock attacks.